All right, guys, this is Crazy Kevin, and I'm here with UFC fighter Jonny Parsons. Johnny, how we doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. So, Johnny, you had a fight in July, and then you had one booked, and then it was canceled. Talk to us a little bit about the fight that was canceled.
Oh man, that's kind of tough to talk about, but man, when it comes down to it, I got to take better care of myself. Um, I got to be more focused in my training. Um, I was dealing with some concussion stuff again um, during that camp, and ultimately, we had to withdraw from the fight. Um, I am healthy now, and I've switched up camps a little bit and trying to do everything in my power to be healthy and make the most out of the opportunity that I have.
Yeah, I remember hearing that in another interview that you mentioned you were having like concussion symptoms as long as like lasting is up to like 6 months. That's really unfortunate. I really hope in the future it kind of stays away a little bit more. But yeah, with that being said, you say you were doing a little bit of cross training now. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Well, back home in Vegas, I'm going to probably be doing most of my training at One Kicks and Extreme Couture for my MMA. But right now, I'm currently in Thailand training at Bang Tao. I've been here since January. It's been amazing. I honestly wish I would have got out here sooner. Um, the only thing that was stopping me was trying to get tenants in my house. I didn't want to rent the whole house out because then I gotta like lock someone in there for a year. But little by little, I was able to like get some of my students in each of the rooms. Um, so that's pretty cool. And I got mats and bags in my garage, so my buddies are all training all the time, so they got a nice little spot, and I'm happy to have them there, and ensuring that my bills back home are paid while I'm out here training.
Now, how is Thailand different than like any other place in the world when it comes to training? I know like Thailand just has that that fighting aspect around it. Like, how is Thailand different than maybe anywhere else in maybe America?
Definitely, it's definitely a vibe out here, and a lot of people that are out here to train, they're able to be in a situation where maybe the only thing they have to worry about is training. So we're out here, besides, having to, take care of my family and stuff and make sure they're all good. Like our only priority out here is training. The kids, they're in online school right now, and um, but yeah, they're in the gym with me every day training as well. And I would say like maybe in the past it was a little bit different, but it seems like some of these Thai camps have kind of gotten away from like the old school way, and they're doing some of the new school stuff, like sports performance training. The sessions aren't as long; they're shorter and more intense, um, and things like that. So I wouldn't say it's too much different, but it's nice to be in the homeland of Muay Thai and things like that. And it's definitely when you've been doing this for 16 years, like Vegas is a great spot. There's a lot of good training there, but sometimes you need a little bit of inspiration, you know.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned your kids are training with you every day. I know you mentioned in another interview, I believe one of your kids has like 5 Muay Thai fights. Is that kid still training, and do they have any more fights coming up?
Well, yeah, well, my oldest son he has 9 fights now,
Wow. Okay.
and three of those are out here, and they're all free PKOs. So
Very nice.
um, he's on a nice little win streak. My two younger boys have also fought out here one time each. My second son, Alexander, he won first round. Oh, I guess the kid did make it to the second round, but he won by TKO. And then my youngest son, he fought a kid a little bit heavier than him. He went all 3 rounds, put on a show, but ultimately lost the decision. But he had a blast out there.
That's awesome. Now, what is it like to train with your kids, and how do you like watching them fight?
You know, Normally I really enjoy watching them fight, but it's a little more nerve-wracking. Like in my son's second fight, my oldest son's second fight out here, like him and his opponent were chucking elbows at each other, and they were like barely missing. And my son, he there was a couple times where the knee just barely missed, and I was thinking to myself, oh, he's gonna catch that kid with a knee eventually. And yeah, in the second round, put him down with a knee to the body.
I love it. No, that's awesome. And now I know you mentioned in another interview too that you said you were a coach and you trained a lot of amateurs that became champions. And you also said that you were a little bit of like a matchmaker as well too. Do you happen to be like a matchmaker as well too for your kids, or do you have to stay out of that? Since they're your kids.
You know, back home in the U.S., maybe more of a matchmaker for them as best of my ability. But yeah, out here, I've kind of just let the coaches out here kind of take over. The Muay Thai coaches at Bangtao have really been taking care of the kids. I don't know if it's just they remember being kid fighters themselves. Um, and it's kind of just like they're reminiscing and like it's kind of nostalgic for them to be training the kids. But man, they show my kids so much love, and sometimes they're getting more attention in the class than some of the other athletes in the class.
That's awesome. That's really really cool that everybody's doing it. I'm glad everybody's enjoying it. Now, with you coaching, how do you think coaching makes you a better fighter?
Oh man, I would say it's definitely it's crazy. I've you know been through the whole fight day experience so many times. I got 30 or so fights myself, but on top of that, I've cornered so many fights. Even before my like 3 year coaching stint at Syndicate, even before that, I was coaching at different gyms in town and cornering guys for fights. And I feel like that really um, transferred over to like fight day for myself. I've just been through that process so many times where it's just like really when I'm sitting in the back before the fight, like I really got no nerves. Like I've just been through that process so many times, whether it's for my own fight or for one of my students. Um, I've just accepted it and I'm at peace. So it's really nice. And I think that's the biggest thing that comes from that is that just going through that process so many times, whether it's for my fighter, I really honestly I get more nervous when I'm coaching than when I fight myself. So I definitely feel like I benefit from that.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Now, with that being said, I know you have a lot of guys that are probably younger in the gym, maybe like, maybe 16 coming up there, getting ready for maybe the UFC or who knows. With that being said, when they're starting to get like very good, and how do you kind of deal with like egos in the gym to kind of calm down and make sure they stay level headed so then they can kind of grow as much as they can?
I'm usually sparring with my students, so
There you go. That's one way.
yeah, they know where they're at in the food chain.
There you
But it's also a good thing. A lot of the guys that I've been coaching the past 3 years, because I've just was really big on like pushing them to get experience because I felt like when I was in their shoes, um, I didn't get as much experience as I wanted, and that was just due to like gym politics, like other people being in control of when I could fight and what fights I could take. So when I was in that position to help these guys, I was keeping them very active and fighting all the time, and a lot of them happened to rack up a bunch of fights within a short period of time where they were now fighting up because they could only get fights matched up with guys that maybe had a similar amount of fights or more fights, but those people have been training for a lot more years.
go.
So a lot of my guys are, they're definitely humble and they understand how hard they got to work. And especially now, a lot of them are they're fighting guys that have been training Muay Thai for like 10 years.
Wow.
Um, Especially in the Muay Thai scene, there's like sometimes in the States, there's no really rush to go pro in Muay Thai because it's like what big Muay Thai show is paying people's bills. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with you being a coach, what is your goal with your students with every single session that you have?
1% better every day. The biggest thing is just, making sure they're getting pushed, um, making sure they're trying to learn something new. The biggest thing I try to teach is like kind of like teach them how to think for themselves. You know, it's really tough. I feel like for me, like I'm an instinctual fighter, but it's like when it comes down to it in the heat of the moment, I just rely on my instincts. I'm not really thinking too much. But I think to be able to fight like that in training and in the gym, you got to build things into your instincts so that when it's time to fight, it's second nature. Because really in the fight, there's no time to be thinking about this combo or that combo, or sometimes like too deeply about the strategy. Um, it's just kind of a weird thing. I don't know if it's just adrenaline you feel, but it's just very weird in the moment type of feeling. Like it almost feels like a dream. And there's really no room to stop and think for too long because that just gives your opponent time to build the confidence to come at you. A big thing I tell my guys when they go to fight is don't wait, be first.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Now, with you being a coach, you said that you have a method to beat all the southpaws. Do you happen to teach any of your students that method?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've talked about it a lot, and it's pretty simple. I could get into detail with a handful of tricks I got, but one thing I definitely noticed, and this was after in 2015, I broke my foot. I had surgery on my foot, and it was like I had like temporary screws in the arch of my foot, and when they got out and everything, I really couldn't. My right foot struggled to be my back foot, like pushing off of it and having weight on it. When I would be on the balls of my feet, would be very painful. So just out of wanting to be able to train, I just started standing southpaw, and I just had more like I was just able to have more of a flat lead foot, and I wouldn't be experiencing that pain in my foot. And I started training a lot like that, and I just happened to have some good southpaw sparring partners, and then I kind of just started to notice some patterns and things like um, the way the hips are angled. Southpaws are used to being open stance and kind of fighting for that outside foot, and they just sometimes they just don't remember to like line their hips up when they're going with another southpaw. They can't like when they're fighting another southpaw, they can't stay bladed like they do when they're fighting someone who's orthodox, and it's kind of taking advantage of that angle and being able to work it.
Definitely. Okay, that definitely makes sense. Okay, fair enough. I definitely like that tip.
And
Now,
then another big thing too, when I was going through this and kind of learning, I was like, because most of the time, right, as an Orthodox person, most of the people you spar are going to be Orthodox as well.
right.
So that's a lot of my combos and everything that I would do, before the foot broke, um, were like Orthodox first, Orthodox combos. And when I would be Southpaw versus Southpaw, I basically got to work all my same combos but reversed. And trying to kind of do that is where I really started to discover, um, the details about that angle that I was talking about.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's definitely pretty interesting. I'm glad you dropped that little bit of knowledge there. I was definitely wondering if you were going to drop a little tip or anything like that. So I definitely
Yeah,
appreciate
well, sometimes it's not so much aiming, it's like lining yourself up
it. Okay.
or unlining yourself up with their strikes.
Okay. Huh. That's definitely pretty interesting. I'm glad you dropped that knowledge. Like I said, I was definitely curious. Thank you. Appreciate that. Now, with that being said, you got the call into the UFC. What was that kind of like? What was the emotions like?
Man, it was great. I got that call for Contender Series, and I knew that there'd be especially during the time that I was going on my win streak, I knew that is a very good possibility to get on Contender Series. I was on season 5, so I already got to witness the first 4 seasons and how many fights really got put on. Like a ton of fights go on each season. So that's a ton of opportunity. So I was super excited, especially because maybe a year and a half, 2 years before that opportunity, I might have been I really was in a position where, I felt like I didn't play my cards right,
Right.
and that like I was really kind of just doing it because it's all I knew. And I was, kind of bummed out, like, well, I'm just gonna fight because it's all I know and I like to do it. I like to train. But yeah, there was definitely some points where I felt like, I mean, I'm never gonna get my shot. I don't have a manager. Um, I didn't play my cards right. Um, I'm fighting how many, two, two weight classes up from what I used to fight as an amateur. Yeah, I just thought I made all the wrong moves, and then started working with the agent, and started to put together some wins, and then signed with Iridium, put together another win, and then got my shot on Contender Series, and one of the few people that was signed off a split decision victory.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's definitely awesome. Now, when you're in the UFC, kind of a random question, but I mean, you have a sweet mullet, and when you're fighting, I see a lot of these guys that have like the cornrows in. I mean, is there like a certain rule with the UFC if your hair is like X amount of length long, you have to get like cornrows, or is that kind of the fighter's decision?
Yeah, it's the fighter's decision. A lot of times they have like a hairdresser.
Sure. Yep.
The UFC will provide you a hairdresser and someone to give you braids if you want. For me, I kind of had it braided up during Contender Series because it was just so long.
Okay.
It was just so long, and even just recently out here in Thailand, I took some length out of it. It'll grow back, but it was just like it was just getting so long. It was just kind of like almost getting in the way. So I took a little bit off. In a couple months here, it'll probably be in a good spot. But that's a good thing about hair; it grows back.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, during
Well,
COVID,
for some people, it grows back.
well, I mean, during COVID, I mean, I had my hair down to like my neck at one point, but then like, it just started getting to a certain point, like when I get in the shower and stuff, like just doing my hair, just getting in my eyes all the time. It's just like, all right, it's time to go. So I was always
Yeah, that's what was happening to me. It's kind of like getting in my face too much, or like, every time I went down to do push-ups, I got like curtains going down the side of my face.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, once it kind of got to that point, I knew it was just going to be one day, like during COVID, it was just going to get too annoying. I was like, all right, I just got to do it. So how long have you had the mullet for now?
Man, I've been rocking it since maybe 2013.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's got chopped a couple times, but like, and it grew right back.
That's really cool. That was awesome. Now, with that being said, Johnny, I mentioned when I was setting up the interview with you, I'm a Taekwondo instructor. I've been teaching for 6 years now, and I've been training for 20 years now, and I have about 150 guys in my gym. With that being said, what advice do you have for those guys to keep coming into the gym every single day to keep getting better and better?
Okay, you know what? I got this. This is what I would tell these guys.
Right.
Because right, I could give some general advice. Like, hey, show up early and be on time, and do this and do that, eat your vegetables. But I'll say this: um, create a system, create a system in your mind, um, where it's like have a certain set of go-to moves for each type of things you notice, each kind of reads you make. Like someone's maybe, right, it's mixed martial arts. There's people got different styles. Kind of make a note of different things people do and what works against those types of people. Like for me, as an example to better explain this, like I have a set of moves for when guys move like karate guys. I got a set of moves for when guys move like boxers. I got a set of moves for when guys are more Muay Thai style. You know what I mean? I got a whole system for when guys are more of grapplers, or I need to anticipate the takedown. So I would say the best thing that they can do if they want to be effective is just like what I was talking about earlier. You got to build these instincts, because in the fight there's no time to think about all these things like, oh, this and that. You can't think about it. But if during training you kind of, there's less pressure, you can think a little bit more and kind of build things um into your instinct spot. So that would be my recommendation, is like build a system in your mind. You know what I mean? Because it's easy for like a coach to say, oh, you got to do that when he does that, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's not a video game. He's not controlling you. You know what I mean? You kind of have to have your own system in your mind of go-to moves. And it'll take a long time to develop, but it's like, man, I trust my system. Like a lot of times if I recognize something, like when you've been doing this so long, you've seen everything. And I trust my system. I have a certain set of moves for each type of fighter that you would run into. And like right away when I started dealing with that, like I know to go to those moves, and it hasn't failed me yet.
No, that's definitely a great message, and I appreciate that. And yeah, I'll definitely make sure I've have game plan for these guys. And I love what I do, and I definitely appreciate the message. With that being said, Johnny, last message to the fans that are going to be watching this video.
For me, just whatever.
Yeah, last message.
Man. Okay. Uh this might fall back to maybe advice for fighters. You know what I mean? Because I think right. I think everyone should train. I think
Yeah,
everyone should train. I feel like it's our duty. Especially if men and women, but especially if you're a man and you're the type of man that one day wants to be, a husband or a father or a provider, and kind of need that mental fortitude, that confidence, and belief in yourself. So I think everyone should train, and when you are training, have good habits. Um, Make a habit of like stretching. Like doesn't matter how good your technique is, how good your fight IQ is, how that none of that matters if your body can't keep up. So especially the guys that are the guys that are 30 and up, they're gonna have a harder time building these stretching habits. But man, if you're a young fighter or you're just getting into fighting or martial arts, I should say, um, make sure you do all the extra work. Show up early, stretch after. You know, you don't gotta have a crazy strength and conditioning program, but you really gotta take care of your body. And I guess that even comes down to to what you put in your body too, so you fuel. So that's my message to all the fans, man. Like take care of yourself. We only get one body in this life. Take care of it.
absolutely. Johnny, that's definitely a great message, and I'm definitely glad you emphasized stretching because I always try to say it to my adult students before or after classes, and they just kind of look at me. But hopefully they watch this video and they take it a little bit more seriously. Because I always tell them like, hey, it's only going to help your kicks, it's only going to make you get better. So I'm glad you're saying it too because yeah, it's definitely only going to help you. And great message, Johnny. I had a lot of fun interviewing you, and thanks a lot for coming on. And I'm looking forward to your future journey.
Yes, sir. Right back at you. Thank you.
My man. All right, talk to you soon. And again, looking forward to your future stuff. Thank you again.
All right, bud. Take it easy.
All right, take care. Bye bye.